Outside a grand mansion, a panicked voice announces that the boss has been eliminated. Inside, a young girl sits calmly, cradling the boss's severed head in her lap. Splattered with blood, she complains about the noise, chiding the intruders for interrupting her prayer. A group of armed men storms in, shouting threats and telling her not to test them. Their leader vows that she will not escape, regardless of which rival family sent her. Suddenly, a strange hissing sound emanates from the headless corpse on the desk. The body begins to rapidly disintegrate into a cloud of black smoke and ash. The girl looks down in shock as the head vanishes from her hands, questioning what's happening. Amidst the swirling black smoke, a figure begins to violently reform behind the desk. A henchman stammers the boss's name, his face a mask of disbelief at the impossible sight. Everyone in the room stares in stunned silence as the girl asks how this could be. The fully regenerated boss touches his own neck, confused about what just transpired. The young assassin mirrors his bewilderment, asking him how he managed to survive. Sometime later, the mansion is the setting for a bizarre and repetitive new reality. The girl furiously demands an answer from Leonard Amaretto about his constant revivals. Leonard simply lets out a hearty laugh, admitting he had no idea he could do that. His loyal henchmen cheer enthusiastically, celebrating their boss's incredible strength. A flashback shows a graphic memory of her shooting him in the head. Another memory depicts her strangling him from behind with a garrote wire. A third attempt reveals her stabbing him in the head with a broken wine bottle. She shows him her frustrated notepad, complaining that she cannot finish her job this way. Leonard calmly asks Miss Killer if it's truly all right for her not to go back. With a hardened expression, she confirms that he already knows she cannot return. He understands her grim predicament, acknowledging that this is her only option. Carrying a large case, she declares her intention to stay until he is finally dead. Glancing back with determination, she promises him that he should just wait. His men protest loudly, holding signs and demanding that she leave their home at once. Down a long hallway, a henchman panics, wondering why she isn't dead yet. The next day arrives, setting the stage for a new and unexpected confrontation. Leonard sits quietly in his study, engrossed in a book. His nose suddenly twitches as he detects an unusual scent wafting through the air. He looks up from his reading, murmuring her moniker as he senses her presence nearby. She appears from behind, questioning his awareness as she lunges with a knife. With surprising speed and grace, he dodges her swift, arcing attack. Her face is a mask of shock, a bead of sweat tracing a path down her cheek. He reaches out with incredible speed, his hand moving to intercept her. His powerful hand seizes her wrist, stopping her attack cold in its tracks. She struggles against his unyielding grip, her face contorted in disbelief. He looks down at his would-be assassin with a stern, determined expression. Pinned against a wall, she demands to know how he managed to find her. He looks at her with a deadpan expression, ready to deliver a blunt explanation. He tells her she stinks as a powerful torrent of water blasts towards her. Soaked and sputtering, she coughs violently from the overwhelming force of the water. Now, sitting in a large bathtub, she demands to know what he is planning to do. Her eyes widen in horror as a terrible thought crosses her mind. She accuses him of planning to torture her, but he scoffs at the very idea. He instructs a nervous maid to clean every single inch of her body. He reassures the maid, explaining that the girl will only try to harm him. The terrified maid stammers her understanding and reluctantly agrees to the task. He leaves the girl in the maid's care, who nervously prepares to clean her up. Later, clean and dressed in new clothes, she questions a strange outfit. Leonard holds up her old, tattered dress, reminding her that she brought no spares. A steaming plate of pasta is placed before her as he notes her obvious hunger. Her eyes widened in surprise at the sight of the appealing meal. She defiantly declares her immunity to poison, but he angrily denies any such plan. Her stomach growls loudly as she argues about eating food from an enemy. Another loud growl betrays her hunger, and she glares at the plate in frustration. He calmly points out that if she is immune, she has nothing to worry about. Defeated by her own body, she closes her eyes in complete resignation. With a reluctant hand, she picks up her fork, finally ready to eat. A determined smirk appears on her face as she takes her first bite of the pasta. Leonard's expression turns serious as he prepares to make a stunning revelation. While smoking a cigar, he gets her attention by calling her Miss Killer. He makes an extraordinary request, telling her that she absolutely has to kill him. He explains that while he cannot die, he has confirmed that he is not ageless. He confesses that the thought of withering away into a weak, undying old man is a pathetic fate. She listens intently, her fork poised as she processes his strange words. A confident smirk spreads across her face as she tells him he doesn't have to ask her twice. Having cleaned her plate, she thanks him for the meal, which he casually dismisses. He provides her with her own private room for the night. She enters the room, silently pondering why he would give her a place to sleep. She wonders aloud about his motives for providing her with a sleeping area. Her professional training kicks in as she begins to check the room for hidden devices. She meticulously inspects the closet for any traps or hidden cameras. Using a specialized device, she sweeps the room for any listening bugs. Finding nothing, she sits on the bed, confirming that the room is secure. Flopping onto the bed, she reflects on what a strange person he is. Lying on her back, she contemplates him giving food and shelter to his own assassin. His earnest and bizarre plea for her to kill him echoes in her mind. She concludes with a slight blush that he must be some kind of idiot. Her eyes close as she drifts off into a troubled sleep. A flashback begins showing a grim gated building from her past. A disembodied voice announces that her brutal and bloody training is now over. She stands amidst a field of corpses ordered to dispose of the bodies. A man chides her for the messy, wasteful scene, telling her to be cleaner next time. A younger, blood-splattered version of herself stares with hollow, empty eyes. A memory shows her praying with another child before a meager meal. She is seen practicing her aim with a pistol at a shooting range. She is presented to a man in a tuxedo, her expression vacant and detached. A coin is exchanged between two men, sealing her fate as a commodity. Her new handler states that she will be useful after extensive training. He tells her to put her best effort into working for him. With a chilling smile, he utters the ominous phrase, "Memento mori." The memory culminates in a brutal beating during a violent training exercise. Her eyes snap open, the violent memory still fresh in her mind. She has jolted awake, her eye wide with the lingering terror of the nightmare. She is seen fully in her bed, the dream having shattered her peace. Sitting up, she clutches her head and questions if it was just a dream. She clutches the bedding, believing this specific bed is what allowed her to dream. A sound from outside startles her, her body instantly tensing in alarm. A young woman's face contorts in shock upon recognizing a voice from off-panel. Without hesitation, her legs carry her forward in a desperate, powerful sprint. She races down a long, starkly lit corridor, her frantic pace accelerating. Bursting through a door, she makes a sudden and dramatic entrance into a room. Inside, a man with a scarred face and another with two-toned hair greet her arrival. The two-toned man lifts a cup, complimenting her on her newfound beauty. Her eyes widen in disbelief as he addresses her by the name Memento. During a tense business meeting, her presence is questioned and then dismissed by Leonard Amoretti. The scarred boss looks weary, stating his organization's policy against dealing drugs. Amoretti condescendingly explains that the boss's survival creates a troublesome stalemate between factions. From behind, Memento reveals that Amoretti placed her here for that very reason. A sudden blast obliterates the boss's head as Memento watches in stunned horror. Her expression reflects Amoretti's frustration at his long failure to kill the old man. The headless corpse of the boss slumps forward in its chair, smoke rising. Amoretti calmly addresses the horrified Memento from across the blood-soaked table. He then reveals a large, ornate, multi-barreled firearm he had concealed. With a malevolent grin, he proudly asks if it isn't a magnificent weapon. His gaze turns cold as he questions whether she was swayed by the boss. Memento closes her eyes in pain as he cruelly dismisses her as a used thing. A guttural scream suddenly erupts from the bloody mess on the floor. Amoretti recoils in shock as the headless corpse grabs him, wreathed in dark energy. As the head begins to regenerate, it forms a mouth and begins to speak. The regenerating boss mockingly asks if they aren't having an awful conversation. The nearby bodyguards cry out in terror at the impossible, monstrous sight before them. Struggling in the creature's grip, Amoretti demands to know how he is still alive. The boss calmly explains that he unfortunately possesses an abnormal body. His attention then shifts to Memento, whom he addresses as Miss Killer. He observes that Amoretti no longer seems to want her, sitting calmly amidst the chaos. Memento looks down as he gently asks if it would be all right for him to take her. Her eyes widen as he looks at her and sincerely declares her importance to him. He extends a hand, asking for her help to kill him and to stay by his side. A wave of powerful emotion fills her eyes, reflecting hope and disbelief. Overcome with joy, she laughs through tears and playfully asks if his offer is a proposal. Gently holding Memento's hand, Leonard dismisses her joke, telling her she is too young. Their conversation is shattered by a gunshot exploding violently in the space between them. Across the room, Leonard Amoretti expresses his frustration that his carefully laid plans are ruined. He raises a massive firearm, vowing to keep killing his target all day if needed. Leonard pushes Memento to safety, taunting Amoretti about the absence of his men. Suddenly, Amoretti's men appear in the doorway and unleash a hail of bullets. Memento's eyes narrow with intense focus as she prepares to counter the volley of gunfire. With a large blade in hand, she swings in a wide arc, deflecting the bullets. One of the ricocheting projectiles strikes a gunman who cries out in pained surprise. The remaining assailants are stunned, unable to believe she managed to block every shot. Memento immediately springs into action, vaulting over a nearby table to attack her foes. She soars through the air, engaging the gunman in a chaotic and fluid melee. An attacker is dispatched as his partner expresses shock at the turn of events. From the sidelines, Leonard provides covering fire with his pistol, his expression grim. Emery takes aim from a distance, shouting a challenge as he targets his enemy. He focuses his special weapon on Memento, who is crouched on the ruined coffee table. A powerful blast erupts from his gun, obliterating the furniture in a shower of debris. Amoretti curses in frustration as he peers through the thick smoke from the explosion. High above the smoke, Memento reappears, having used the blast as a diversion. He looks up, his face a mask of pure shock at her impossible speed. She bids him a final farewell as she descends upon him for the finishing blow. With a devastating downward slash, her blade connects, ending the fight in a blur. The force of her strike is so great that it shatters the floor into rubble. Standing over the fallen bodies, Memento announces with a smile that it is finally over. Leonard, however, frets about the incredible mess, hoping his prayers for tidiness were answered. Memento suddenly wails in distress, complaining that she has been splattered with blood. The sound of heavy, rushing footsteps echoes from down the hallway. Leonard's own men burst into the room, calling out to him in concern. They react to the overwhelming smell of iron as Leonard casually acknowledges their arrival. He nonchalantly explains that he died but is now fine, which only alarms them more. He delegates the cleanup to his men who protest as he prepares to leave. Leonard suggests they go die in the bath together, and Memento calls him an idiot. The two sit together in a quiet, bookline room, the chaos now behind them. Over a game of chess, Memento announces her intention to find work. Her guardian, the boss, reacts with a look of weary confusion. She points out that he can't die and won't give her a job anyway. A subordinate suddenly burst into the room, shouting for the boss. The boss calmly asked what could be so urgent as to skip knocking. His man frantically reports that a rival gang is invading their turf again. He explains they are stealing money and merchandise, taking advantage of their passivity. As his men grow more agitated, the boss tells him to calm down. Memento watches as the underlings demand to teach the rivals a lesson. With a cheerful smile, she offers to go kill them for her papa. The boss declares they are businessmen who don't kill over minor inconveniences. A look of clear disappointment crosses Memento's face. He makes a decisive move on the board, asking if she understands. She gets up to leave, stating she will earn her own meal money. He points to the board, revealing his move was a victorious double check. Her pout vanishes as she reminds him of his promise for pasta dinner. Bemused by her love for pasta, he sighs and reluctantly agrees. Carrying a large case, she promises to be back in time for dinner. The boss thoughtfully considers the job for kids she had proposed. Relenting, he tells his men to set up a meeting with the rival gang. The scene shifts to Memento walking down a narrow, shadowed city street. She looks up from that stone pavement, a small case clutched in her hand. Perched on her case, she gazes out over the old, weathered buildings. Her path leads her down a dark alley toward a tavern's arched doorway. As she pushes the door open, a small bell jingles above her head. She enters the dimly lit establishment filled with rough-looking patrons. One man drinks heavily at a table littered with spent bullet casings. At another table, a man with a bandaged face meticulously cleans a long knife. A waitress notices the small silhouette of a child standing in the doorway. Flustered, she quickly apologizes and offers to prepare a table. The waitress wonders why a child would be in a place like this. Memento looks up at the taller woman with a calm, neutral expression. A boisterous patron rudely tells her this is no place for little brats. In a hazy tavern, a young girl with a suitcase is approached by a waitress. The young blonde girl looks on with a quiet, unimpressed expression, questioning the man. An aggressive, spiky-haired man grins widely, asking if she has a problem. She pointedly ignores him and walks past the bar, causing his friend to call out his name. Lem's face darkens with anger as he calls out to the girl who is ignoring him. He furiously demands she stop and come back, reaching out to grab her shoulder. A nearby waitress watches with a look of pure horror, sensing the impending violence. Lem's hand closes in on the girl's shoulder as he shouts for her to stop. In a blur of motion, she intercepts his arm, the impact captured in a dynamic burst. She seizes his collar, expertly using his own momentum against him in a fluid motion. With devastating grace, she delivers a powerful high kick directly to his jaw. He lets out a guttural cry of pain as the force of the blow sends him down. The other patrons and the waitress are frozen, their faces masks of utter shock. With a confident smirk, she brushes herself off and coolly asks who's next. A man in a bow tie intervenes, Riley asking if she plans to destroy his shop. He identifies her as one of his special, more dangerous customers. The waitress realizes the girl is going deeper into the establishment for a purpose. She quietly reflects on the frightening nature of a child working in such a world. They descend a dark, shadowy stone staircase into a hidden area beneath the tavern. In the wine cellar, the man confirms that the rumors of her being independent are true. She asks to choose a simple job that she can complete before dinner time. He assures her that they have plenty of available jobs for her to choose from. He suggests a particular job while polishing a bottle of expensive liquor. With a flourish, he presents the bottle, its distinctive label facing toward her. He formally offers her the mission, the assassination of boss Leonardo Amaretto. The girl's eyes widen in shock, recognizing the extreme difficulty of the task. She internally acknowledges that this is an impossible top-rank mission. A sudden realization strikes her as she recalls the thugs from upstairs belong to that gang. He explains that there was a specific request for her to take this job. He finds her interest in the dangerous job annoying and tells her to report back when done. As she prepares to leave, he offers her a piece of advice for her new independent career. He gives a stern warning telling her not to get involved with Murder Incorporated. She pauses, turning her back to look at him as she hears the ominous name. The girl questions what he means, wondering if he is being serious about the warning. A shout echoes from the roof of a tall, imposing hotel building. Inside the lobby, a well-dressed couple appears to be checking in. A thug brandishes a pistol, aggressively ordering the hotel staff to leave. A subordinate confirms he has understood the boss's orders via a small device. The thugs discuss their boss's desire for fine dining and the best booze. Threatened with a gun, the clerk nervously agrees to prepare the order immediately. The thug laughs, chiding the clerk for not complying with their request sooner. A young girl silently observes the unfolding scene, pretending to read a book. A hotel bellboy exits an elevator, looking around with a questioning expression. He discovers the young girl crying behind a room service card, asking what happened. She tearfully explains her fear, recalling a terrible past experience with the cart. The bellboy listens with concern as she describes how the memories return. Filled with sympathy, the kind bellboy offers to bring the card up for her. She weakly points to the cart and offers a quiet word of thanks. In a quiet hotel hallway, a single door marks the thugs' hideout. Inside the suite, the thugs play cards while their leader asks about their plans. Their leader confirms everything is ready for them to go on a massacre. He clenches his fists, vowing that the rivals' turf will soon be theirs. A finger presses the doorbell, announcing the arrival of the room service. The bellboy stands in the hallway with the card announcing his delivery. A thug opens the door, immediately frisking the terrified bellboy for weapons. After a thorough pat-down, the thug confirms the bellboy is not armed. He threatens the bellboy's life, ordering him to bring in the cart. Inside, the leader inspects the delivery of meat, fish, and expensive liquor. His suspicion aroused, he wonders what might be concealed beneath the tablecloth. A gloved hand moves swiftly towards the unsuspecting man's head. A sharp crack echoes from a dark corner of the hotel room. Startled by the sound, the leader asks his men if they heard it. He orders one of his subordinates to get up and investigate the noise. The henchman walks into the darkness, complaining as he fumbles for a switch. Looking up, the thug is stunned to see the girl hanging from the ceiling. In a flash of motion, the assassin descends upon her unsuspecting target. Hearing a heavy thud, the leader wonders what is happening in the dark. A young disheveled girl emerges from the shadows, startling an unseen observer with her presence. The spiky-haired leader brandishes 2 pistols, angrily demanding to know how she got inside. His horrified gaze lands on a room service card, revealing her impossible method of entry. With a powerful kick, the girl sends the heavy cart flying across the room. The leader reels back in absolute shock at her incredible display of strength. Hurtling through the air, the cart intercepts a bullet meant for the young assassin. It smashes violently against the far wall, creating a perfect diversion amidst the chaos. The thugs express their relief, mistakenly believing their attacker has missed her target. One of the men lets out a confused grunt, sensing something is terribly wrong. A gloved hand flashes by, brandishing a thin, sharp blade dripping with fresh blood. The man looks on in shock as his companion is fatally wounded right beside him. The girl now stands between her two victims, having dispatched them with merciless efficiency. Her cold, resolute gaze shows no emotion after the swift and brutal takedown. Consumed by terror, the leader lets out a horrified shriek, his bravado completely shattered. He screams at his last remaining man, urging him to run for his life. The girl bids the fleeing thug a quiet goodbye as she delivers a final devastating blow. The man's hand falls limp, his body twitching once before falling still on the floor. She flops onto the bed, declaring her bloody mission complete amidst the room's wreckage. She reflects on how uncomfortable it was hiding inside the wobbly, narrow cart. Lying amidst the chaos, she considers that all that remains is to make her report. The deep, resonant tolling of a nearby clock tower suddenly breaks her moment of rest. Startled, she sits up, clutching her bloody knife with a gasp of surprise. Looking out the window, she realizes with alarm that it is already past 11 p.m. She arrives back at her apartment, pushing open the large glass-pane double doors. Peeking inside, her expression immediately shifts to one of wide-eyed shock and disbelief. Her target, Leonardo Amaretto, casually greets her, asking why she has returned so late. Leonardo closes the book he was reading, explaining he was just waiting there for her. With a warm, disarming smile, he welcomes the young assassin home. The girl is utterly stunned into silence by this surreal and unexpected turn of events. Her shock gives way to a weary exhaustion as she quietly announces her return. Leonardo observes her blood-soaked state with a simple, unimpressed expression of awe. Snapping his fingers, he remarks on how she is completely covered in blood. At his signal, two maids appear, declaring their intent to wash her thoroughly. A flustered young girl protests that she can manage as unseen hands reach for her. A man smoking a cigarette is startled by a loud splash in a nearby protest. Standing beside a stern maid, the freshly cleaned young girl looks thoroughly annoyed. In the dining room, the scarred boss directs the girl to her designated seat. Now seated, the young girl looks on with a quiet, sparkling intensity. With everyone gathered, a large, steaming platter of food is served for dinner. The boss contentedly licks a morsel from his thumb, enjoying the hearty meal. She sits quietly amidst the boisterous men as they all eat with great gusto. One of his subordinates leans in, announcing he has something important to report. The man explains that a rival gang has been completely silent since their meeting. He reveals a rumor that the entire gang was mysteriously annihilated, surprising the boss. Memento looks down at her steaming plate, a new feeling of comfort washing over her. Her thoughts focus on the simple luxury of a warm bath after a day's work. A maid serves the boss a glass of wine as he prepares to slice some bread. With a sharp knife, he cuts a thick slice from the fresh loaf. He reflects on the simple pleasure of having delicious food readily available to him. One of the men carefully dips a piece of bread into a small bowl. The men share the bread around the table, a picture of familial camaraderie. Another man uses his own knife to slice a portion of the shared loaf. Memento watches the scene, a small morsel of food on her cheek. She thinks about having a bed where she no longer has to fear for her life. A hand surprisingly offers her a piece of bread, a gesture she doesn't expect. She considers how such a peaceful life was completely unthinkable just yesterday. With her small knife, she carefully cuts into the bread roll she was given. Surrounded by her new family, she accepts the offered food with quiet contemplation. A firm resolve forms in her mind. She must protect this new life. Taking a small bite, she solidifies her new purpose with quiet determination. The boss suddenly gets her attention, calling out her name, Memento. With a wide, cheerful grin, he makes a stunning and unexpected announcement. She looks up in utter shock, a piece of meatball still on her fork. Her only response is a single, confused utterance as the meal is forgotten. The story shifts to the grand exterior of Prey's private grade school. A teacher announces that a new friend will be joining the class today. The teacher then asks Memento to please introduce herself to her new classmates. With a bright smile, she introduces herself as Memento Mori from the East. She politely asks that they all get along, bowing as the teacher applauds. Her new classmates enthusiastically welcome her, promising to play nicely with her. Memento seems slightly taken aback by the overwhelmingly positive reception. Her gaze falls upon a girl with twin tails who stares back unimpressed. Memento approaches the girl and politely introduces herself, trying to make a friend. The girl, Rhoda, dismisses her with a curt and only offers her name. Memento is visibly startled and confused by the immediate cold shoulder. Walking down the hall, she worries that she has already messed things up. Despite her worries, another student cheerfully invites her to the next class. The scene transitions, showing a simple, cloudy sky. Elsewhere, the boss thinks grimly about the girl he has sent to school. Amidst a firefight, he hopes that she isn't bungling her first day. His subordinate yells that it's raining lead, but the boss dismisses their attackers. Raising his pistol, he coolly decides it is time to put an end to the fight. Back in the classroom, Memento is at the blackboard during math class. She confidently announces to the teacher that she has finished the problems. The teacher looks at her textbook, stunned that she got every answer right. Her classmates are equally amazed, exclaiming that her skills are incredible. Rhoda watches from her desk, her expression unreadable but intense. During PE, Memento is a blur of motion, easily outmaneuvering everyone. In language class, the teacher praises her pronunciation as absolutely perfect. Memento begins to sweat, a wave of anxiety washing over her. She sits alone, clutching her head, realizing she has overdone it. She worries that her exceptional performance has made her seem weird to the others. Her quiet moment of panic is interrupted by a classmate calling her name. A group of excited students crowds around her, asking for tips and advice. Memento is flustered by the sudden and enthusiastic attention from her peers. Believing she is in the clear, she breathes a sigh of relief. A new figure begins to walk towards a group with purpose. Rhoda sternly tells the others to move, stating she has business with Memento. With her hands on her hips, Rhoda shouts Memento's full name. She accuses Memento of having everyone wrapped around her little finger, her face contorted with rage. She declares that she will not accept this. She points directly at Memento, vowing to thoroughly kick her butt. With a final defiant, Rhoda turns and storms off down the hall. Another girl apologizes, explaining that Rhoda is always like that. A simple line marks the end of the chaotic school day. As students leave the school grounds, a voice wishes them a safe journey. Memento walks with the other students toward the waiting school bus. A sudden twitch of instinct alerts her to a potential danger. She stops and scans her surroundings, her senses on high alert. Her intuition tells her that something feels off in the atmosphere. Her sharp focus is broken by someone shouting to get her attention. The impatient bus driver gruffly asks if she's getting on or not. Startled, Memento quickly confirms that she is coming aboard the bus. She takes a seat, looking slightly annoyed by the driver's outburst. Unseen, a trio of men wonders if their young target noticed them. Deciding she didn't, they agree that it is time to get going. Night falls over the city, the sky dotted with stars. Back home, Memento laments that her latest assassination attempt was a failure. The boss sits with a stake through his chest, asking who does such a thing. She sarcastically asks if a warning would have been better. He says it still hurts. Ignoring the stake, he asks her how her day at school went. She reports that it was a piece of cake, aside from one annoying person. The boss listens to her report with a quiet, thoughtful expression. He then notices something out of the corner of his eye, looking up in confusion. Memento is casually reading a vampire encyclopedia, hoping to become a hunter. He explodes in frustration, asking why she's seriously looking for a way to kill him. The next day begins under a bright, cloudy sky. Memento prepares to board the school bus for another day. As she steps inside, she is surprised to see someone waiting for her. Rhoda stands just inside the door, pointing dramatically downward. She shouts Memento's full name, having clearly been waiting to confront her. Memento looks up, her expression one of pure, weary exhaustion. She dryly points out the obvious fact that they take the same bus. Politely, but with clear annoyance, she asked Rhoda to please move out of her way. On the bus, Rhoda leans in with a taunting grin, asking if she can block Memento's path. Memento simply stares back, her expression completely silent and unreadable. She internally expresses her growing annoyance at Rhoda's constant presence. Looking away, Memento seems to contemplate the ongoing situation with a distant gaze. With a smug expression, Rhoda again urges Memento to say something to her. Memento shifts slightly, deciding she might as well respond to the provocation. A brutal vision flashes, showing Memento standing over Rhoda's bloody corpse. A past memory reveals Rhoda on the ground, terrified by Memento's intense stare. From Memento's point of view, Rhoda looks up, her fear palpable and raw. Rhoda recalls her shock, wondering about the chilling nature of Memento's eyes. A man's stern warning echoes, telling Memento not to cause any trouble. Her hand clenches by her side, a sign of her forced and difficult restraint. Back in the present, Rhoda looks up from the bus floor, confused and apprehensive. Memento extends a hand to her, quietly asking if she is able to stand up. Rhoda looks on, her mind racing, as she questions what just happened between them. Another student shouts in frustration, demanding that the two of them sit down. The school bus is seen driving down a city street, its journey seemingly normal. Inside, Memento notes with irritation that Rhoda is still staring intently at her. The bus driver is suddenly startled by a loud screeching sound from outside. A car swerves aggressively, cutting off the bus with a violent, jarring motion. The panicked driver shouts in disbelief at the car's dangerous maneuver. The bus door slams open with a loud bang, catching the driver by surprise. A blond man and his partner burst in, ordering everyone not to move. The hijacker presses his gun to the driver's head, threatening his life. He then turns his weapon to the back, extending the same threat to the children. The hijackers tell the kids to stay still to avoid any painful memories. Memento clutches her case, realizing trouble has found her despite her best efforts. An overhead view shows the getaway car waiting as the bus remains stopped. Inside the car, the driver confirms over the phone he'll wait at the warehouse. A new driver, one of the hijackers, gets behind the wheel of the bus. The voice on the phone gives us stern order not to screw up the plan. The blond man confidently declares the job will be easy, holding his ticket. The ticket is revealed to be a photograph of his intended target. The getaway car is seen driving away as the hijack bus begins to move. Memento and Rhoda sit tensely, clutching their cases as the bus starts its journey. The hijacker reassures the children that they won't be heard if they stay calm. Memento quickly assesses the number of threats, counting 3 hostiles in total. She concludes that the entire operation has been meticulously planned out. She watches the hijackers scan the bus, realizing he is looking for someone. Clutching her case tightly, she silently wonders who the target could be. The hijacker's search ends as his eyes lock onto his intended victim. He confirms to his accomplice that he has found the girl they are after. Memento understands with grim certainty that she is the one they've come for. The realization hits her. This entire situation was set up to take her hostage. A flicker of defiance crosses her face as she challenges them in her mind. She then recalls her guardian's words, reminding her that she was to be good. With a weary sigh, she resigns herself to the escalating chaos of the situation. The new driver threatens the original one, telling him to stop chattering. He shoves a piece of paper with directions at him, ordering him to navigate. The terrified driver questions why they are heading to an abandoned warehouse. The hijacker cruelly insults the driver's cowardice and tells him to get moving. The driver is repeatedly ordered to just keep his eyes on the road. The bus continues its journey, carrying its captive passengers to an unknown fate. Suddenly, a jaunty ringtone from a phone cuts through the tense silence. The blonde hijacker is startled by his own phone, much to his partner's annoyance. His partner angrily shouts at him to put his phone on mute. The partner mutters about the creepy ringtone as the blonde man answers his call. The hijacker reports into the phone that everything is proceeding smoothly. He confirms that he will let the murdering guys know as well. Memento's eyes widen in shock as she overhears the name of the organization. She now understands that her captors are part of that dangerous group. Realizing the stakes, she knows she cannot afford to be careless now. She decides to bite her time and observe her hand hovering over her case. Her strategic thoughts are interrupted by a sudden presence right beside her. She turns to see Rhoda, who has moved to sit next to her in the seat. Memento is visibly startled by Rhoda's sudden appearance so close to her. Rhoda is in a full-blown panic, tearfully asking what she should do. Memento is taken aback by the raw, uncontrolled fear radiating from the other girl. She looks at Rhoda's trembling form, noting how truly terrible she looks. Memento silently considers her next move, her focus shifting to her classmate. She offers a quiet word of comfort, telling Rhoda that it will be okay. Memento reassures her that someone will save them, patting her hand gently. Internally, she assesses Rhoda's fear as a very typical reaction to the situation. She likens the tense atmosphere on the bus to a balloon about to pop. Memento knows the slightest provocation could cause everything to collapse at once. Such a collapse would make it even more difficult for her to do anything. She needs to act soon but can't risk revealing herself to the others. The bus continues its journey, the children inside still held hostage. One hijacker watches over the students while the other fiddles with the device. Memento sits quietly, observing their movements and waiting for an opening. The hijacker in the cap lets out an annoyed shh, his patience wearing thin. He suddenly shouts for everyone to cover their ears and get their heads down. A student is shown cowering, hands pressed tightly over their ears in fear. Another student ducks down, obeying the hijacker's terrifying command. Rhoda also complies, covering her head and hunching over in her seat. She looks up for a moment, confused by Memento's lack of reaction. Memento remains sitting upright, her posture calm and completely defiant. She lets out a small, sharp laugh, a sound of pure contempt. The hijacker mocks her, asking what she finds so funny about the situation. He points his gun directly at her, ordering her to put her head down. Memento scoffs, telling him his amateur behavior is what makes him third-rate. The gun is pressed to her head as she asks if he wants his own blown off. The hijacker confidently states that he cannot possibly miss from this distance. Memento smiles, thanking him for personally removing her shackles for her. In the next moment, the hijacker is slumped forward in his seat, defeated. Memento stands over his still form, having neutralized the immediate threat. Adjusting her tie, she declares with a bright smile that her work was perfect. She walks to the front, pointing to the now unconscious bus driver. Memento nonchalantly observes that both men have collapsed for some reason. The bus finally screeches to a complete stop on the side of the road. Walking down the bus aisle, Memento reflects on the difficulty of restraining her lethal instincts. After the ordeal, she sits wearily on a curb, lost in quiet contemplation. She pulls her cap down over her eyes, trying to compose herself. Looking up, her expression is uncertain as she considers what just happened. She later recounts the events with animated gestures to her classmate Rhoda. Suddenly, her face registers alarm at something she has noticed off-panel. The scene is a chaotic tableau of emergency vehicles surrounding the school bus. Officials lead the two subdued hijackers away from the scene in custody. An officer praises the bus driver, who protests his own innocence and confusion. Memento and Rhoda sit together in silence, wrapped in emergency blankets. Observing her classmate, Memento coldly concludes she must kill her to remain safe. Rhoda's hands suddenly grasped Memento's, breaking her grim train of thought. With eyes full of awe, Rhoda burst out that Memento's actions were amazing. Her murderous resolve shatters, replaced by utter shock at the girl's praise. Rhoda continues gushing that Memento was just like a real heroine. Memento watches her classmate, her expression now unreadable and completely changed. With a finger to her lips, Rhoda insists their shared experience must be a secret. Memento quietly observes how quickly people's feelings can shift. A child's happy cry for someone named Kenta rings out nearby. More parents rush through the crowd, desperately calling for their children. The air fills with the emotional cries of children being reunited with family. All around them, families embrace in tearful, joyful hugs. Rhoda's parents call her name, expressing their immense relief that she's safe. She is immediately enveloped in a tight, loving embrace by her parents. Standing alone, Memento watches the happy reunions from a distance. She decides it is time to leave, letting the blanket drop from her shoulders. As the blanket pulls on the ground, she resolves to head home. Her small feet turn and begin to carry her away from the scene. A large, scarred man appears before her, offering a casual greeting. He apologizes for being late as she looks up at him in surprise. The man gently tells her it's time for them to return home. A bright, genuine laugh escapes her, expressing her disbelief that he came. He playfully teases that she must be very fond of him. A man pinches Memento's cheeks, playfully warning her not to push her luck. Memento, flustered, asked him to please let go of her face. He explains his surprise at how cold her cheeks were from being outside. Suddenly, he tosses the startled girl playfully high into the air. After being caught, she questions his actions but admits his touch is warm. His mood turns gentle as he places a hand on her head, asking if she's cold. He looks at her with a soft expression, praising her for doing well. With a proud smile, he calls her Memento and says he is proud of her. Overcome with joy, Memento breaks into a radiant, heartfelt smile under his hand. Her happiness turns to shyness as she dismisses his praise as nothing special. She explains that the men were after her, so she was just returning fire. Memento concludes that her actions weren't really anything worthy of such praise. He gives her a rough, affectionate noogie, insisting he is proud of everything she did. While he laughs heartily, she protests that he is messing up her hair. The scene shifts to the garage where a TV airs a news flash about a bus jacking. A news report on a phone confirms the culprits are in custody with no injuries. In a dark room, a man begs for his life before a shadowy figure after his failure. The kneeling man desperately screams that the screw-up was not his fault. He prostrates himself, pleading to be allowed to join the organization Murder Inc. The seated figures sighs, lamenting that he got all dressed up for their meeting. As the man on the floor tries to speak, the figure silences him. In a violent blur, the figure reveals that he wanted to see something specific. Amaretto stands over the man, explaining he just wanted to see his dear Memento. Transitioning to a party, the story announces a break after some dangerous business. Amaretto raises a glass, declaring that today they are going to let loose. His men, all in suits, raise their glasses together for a celebratory toast. A chorus of hands lifts their drinks high in the air in celebration. At a barbecue grill, Amaretto encourages his men to keep eating as he cooks. One of his subordinates gets Don Amaretto's attention during the festivities. The man's wife, holding their child, thanks Amaretto for taking care of her husband. Amaretto is thrilled to meet the man's family. Learning his daughter is almost 2, he laughs heartily, joking that his subordinate's wife is too good for him. Amaretto's expression turns serious as he advises the man to cherish his family. Leo, a man in a vest, waves goodbye to a departing guest and his daughter. A maid gets the attention of her superior, who responds with a simple, "Yeah?" With her hand on Memento's shoulder, the maid reports that their preparations are complete. Her boss acknowledges the report with a quiet, thoughtful okay. Memento is revealed. Looking profoundly unhappy in an elaborate, frilly Gothic Lolita dress, Leo is momentarily speechless, letting out an impressed wow at the sight. Blushing with embarrassment and shock, Memento cries out her boss's title. Her mortification is palpable as she stammers, questioning the situation. She loudly complains that the outfit is incredibly fluffy, frilly, and hard to move in. With a wide grin, Leo cheerfully explains that it is for a party. He compliments her appearance, but she suspects he is just messing with her. A shocked bystander wonders aloud where they could have possibly gotten such clothes. A newcomer observes the good rapport between Leo and the young girl, Memento. The man makes a grand entrance, announcing he is just there for the food. Leo's face is a mask of shock at the unexpected arrival of his friend. The newcomer magnanimously invites everyone, even those in the back, to eat up. Memento, unimpressed, quietly wonders who this old-timer could be. The man introduces himself as Lassie, Leo's childhood friend and a family boss. He insists he still has some youth in him, but Leo dryly questions where. Upon hearing Lassie's name, Memento's eye twitches with a sudden sharp intensity. Her expression hardens into a cold, focused glare as she processes the information. She announces she is going to the washroom, and Leo casually acknowledges her. Lassie observes that Leo seems to have a real soft spot for kids. In a secluded area, Memento informs Lassie she has found what he asked for. Unaware of the clandestine meeting, Leo takes a sip from his drink. Lassie carefully tucks a small document into the inner pocket of his tuxedo. Memento explains that the document contains everything: name, parents, birthplace, and age. She reminds him that he owes her a favor for completing this task. She presses the issue, recalling all the other favors he still owes her. Unseen by anyone in the party, Leo is framed in a sniper's crosshairs. The sniper has a clear, perfect shot lined up on his unsuspecting target. On a rooftop, a spotter laments that it is a shame their target isn't a woman. The sniper agrees, noting the bounty is simply too good to pass up. From a rooftop, a hooded figure watches a party below, as their partner suggests celebrating after their mission. A cocky sniper boasts about buying an expensive woman and offering his partner leftovers. He quickly backpedals, laughing it off as a joke to get his partner's attention. Still brimming with confidence, he wonders why such a simple job is ranked so highly. Through the scope, an unspoken thought trails off as something unusual catches his eye. The view through his rifle's scope remains fixed, the world held in his sights. A thought bubble emerging from the scope expresses that what he sees is bizarre. Pulling back from his rifle, the sniper's confident expression dissolves into confused disbelief. Memento leans nonchalantly on his rifle barrel, his partner lying motionless in a bloody heap. With a cold, knowing smirk, she informs him that his plans to celebrate are cancelled. The scene shifts to the quiet, unassuming exterior of an arched doorway leading to a bar. Inside, a bartender with two-toned hair is startled by his phone buzzing on the counter. Picking up the device, he sees the caller ID as Memento Defiler, recognizing her name. He answers the call, calmly asking what she needs from him at this moment. On the other end, Memento confirms that she has a job for him to handle. From the rooftop, she asks him to check for bounties on 2 specific targets. The bartender confirms the men took a job yesterday and likely have bounties themselves. A close-up reiterates his confirmation that the 2 assassins do indeed have bounties. Memento instructs him that she will have a courier named Pigeon deliver the men. He grimly asks if delivering just their heads would be acceptable for the bounty. The scene fades to a soft, cloudy sky, signaling a transition in time or place. Now, in her frilly dress, Memento walks back towards the party where people are gathered. Her boss, Leo Stand, is alone by a table, holding a drink while waiting for her. With fresh blood on her cheek, she approaches a framed picture asking what it is. Leo turns to her, offering a simple and casual greeting as she finally arrives. He places the picture down on the table, welcoming her back from her dangerous work. Gazing at her own reflection, she muses that she was starting to feel lost forever. Leo echoes her sentiment of being lost, understanding the dark meaning behind her words. Her reflection in the glass clearly shows the dark splatter of blood across her cheek. He gently beckons her over, and she looks up at him with quiet, questioning confusion. Using his thumb, he tenderly wipes the blood from her face, praising her quick work. She asks if he was aware of the attack, and he admits that he knew. Memento quietly accepts his answer, acknowledging that his awareness was not a bad thing. Turning to him with a serious expression, she then demands that he bring her meat. Leo questions Memento about why she chose not to hide during the attack. She explains that running away might have caused the assassins to target others randomly. With a chilling matter-of-factness, she adds that she cannot die anyway. He observes that her way of thinking has become disturbingly warped. His expression softens as he acknowledges she protected him, offering a heartfelt thanks. Memento, looking away, feigns ignorance of his gratitude, clearly flustered by the praise. A close-up reveals a deep blush on her cheeks, betraying her embarrassment. As Leo takes notice of her frilly dress, she nervously fidgets with the sleeve. With her head bowed, she quietly admits to liking the outfit and offers a shy thanks. His eyes widened in pure, delighted surprise at her rare and honest admission. Beaming with joy, he pats her head and exclaims how good the outfit looks. She lets out a playful protest as he continues to affectionately ruffle her hair. Despite her complaints, a genuine smile shows she is enjoying the attention. Laughing, he remarks, "She's more girly now, but wishes she had more grace." Her mood instantly darkens, her eyes narrowing with sudden intense fury. In a blur of motion, she leaps into the air to deliver a kick. A bystander shouts an alarm as she furiously tells Leo he's said too much. The scene shifts to a quiet, arched doorway of a different establishment. A woman sweeping inside hears a knock, turning with a puzzled expression. She wonders who could be visiting, as it is still before their opening time. A young man appears from behind a curtain, and she greets him as senpai. He instructs her to bring him the package that arrived from someone named Pigeon. Confused by the code name, she imagines a literal bird with a question mark. Her junior explains that Pigeon is a courier's name, as everyone uses bird names. Delighted by this, she remarks on how fancy their line of work is. She finds a white, trunk-like box waiting on the steps just outside the door. Lifting the package, she asks if this is it, and he confirms it is. He then gives a deadpan warning that the box contains heads, so she shouldn't drop it. A heavy thud is heard as he chides her for immediately dropping the grim package. The story transitions to a peaceful morning as birds begin to chirp softly. Sunlight streams through the window of a bedroom, signaling a new day. A sleepy Memento slowly stirs, murmuring that it is morning as she awakens. Sitting up in bed, she lets out a long and satisfying stretch. A young girl with messy blonde hair groggily awakens, stretching as she loses her balance. With a loud thud and a cry of surprise, she tumbles out of bed. Lying on the floor, she suddenly remembers that she has forgotten her medicine. She urgently reaches into the nightstand drawer to retrieve her medication. Her hand closes around the familiar bottle of pills, shaking it slightly. She quickly prepares a glass of water from a pitcher on the nightstand. Holding the nearly empty bottle, she notes that not many pills are left. A look of quiet worry crosses her face as she wonders what she will do. Later that day, the scene shifts to a different room in the house. She is now seated amidst towering stacks of books, studying with intense focus. A man with a scarred face enters, surprised to find her surrounded by literature. He approaches, asking what strange things she could possibly be researching. She angrily explains she's researching how to kill him, as normal methods fail. The man's attention shifts from her outburst to an object on his desk. His gaze falls upon the framed photograph of a woman with a long braid. He recognizes the picture as the one taken at their recent barbecue. The girl silently speculates if the woman in the photo is the boss's wife. Noting his sad expression, she wonders to herself if the woman has passed away. Abruptly, the man grabs her by the head, startling her completely. He scolds her for not listening to him while she cries out in pain. He begins to drag her from the room, announcing that it's time to go. Annoyed and confused, she demands to know where he is taking her. With a wide, cheerful grin, he enthusiastically announces they are going on a date. At a clothing store, he points out a coat while she examines other items. In another shop, her face lights up with excitement over a small figurine. They playfully try on various masks in a crowded and chaotic costume shop. For a brief moment, the girl breaks into a wide, genuinely happy smile. Their date continues, leading them to a bright, welcoming storefront. A large, enticing cup of colorful gelato is presented with a flourish. The man gives her the gelato, telling her to eat and wait for him. He assures her that he will be right back before leaving her alone at the table. Left by herself, she eyes the unfamiliar dessert, wondering what it could be. Deciding to try it anyway, her eyes sparkle with curious anticipation. A girl eating a snack is suddenly shot in the head, reacting only with surprise. A young girl's face lights up with pure joy as she exclaims how wonderfully sweet the gelato is. From behind, she is seen enjoying the treat, telling the friendly shopkeeper how delicious it tastes. While continuing to eat, her attention is suddenly drawn to something happening at the counter. She observes her boss receiving a wrapped item from the shopkeeper, noting the exchange. The boss seems engaged in a lengthy conversation, and she realizes he won't be finished soon. Feeling a bit annoyed, she decides to take a rebellious bite of his nearby pasty. She takes a small, mischievous bite from the pastry with a soft, crunching sound. With a contented expression, she begins to chew the piece of stolen food. Her expression shifts to confusion. She notes the crunchy texture, but something is wrong. Overcome with a strange sensation, she quickly spits the half-chewed food into her hand. A horrifying realization dawns on her as she discovers the pasty is completely without flavor. She finds it strange that she could taste the sweet gelato, but not the pasty. Clutching her leg, she worries that her medicine is failing and will soon stop working. Her boss returns, apologizing for the wait and asking if the gelato was good. He notices her strange, troubled expression and asks her what is wrong. She looks up at him, her face a mask of flustered surprise, unsure how to respond. Misinterpreting her mood, he playfully asks if she wants another gelato since she finished hers. She quickly denies that's the issue, looking annoyed by his incorrect assumption. When he asks about the missing bite, she invents a whimsical story about a fairy. As a waitress clears a nearby table, he asks where she'd like to go next. The waitress turns with her tray, her movement captured by a soft whip sound. Suddenly, the waitress's foot slips on the tiled floor and she cries out in surprise. The tray goes flying, sending plates and glasses scattering through the air in chaos. The boss, mid-bite, shouts a sharp warning for everyone to watch out. In a blur of motion, the girl intercepts the falling dishes, catching them all perfectly. Her boss laughs, remarking that her feat was like a circus act, but she's too laid back. She calmly hands the perfectly stacked tray back to the stunned and grateful waitress. The waitress stands dazed as the girl tells her companion that they can get going now. Their journey takes them to a large, quiet graveyard overlooking a distant mountain range. She observes that they've arrived at a graveyard on the outskirts of the town. Following her boss, she quietly wonders why they have come to this solemn place. She notices the bouquet of white flowers he is carrying in a small paper bag. With a pensive look, she speculates that he must be there to visit his wife's grave. He stops abruptly before a simple gravestone and announces that they have arrived. Standing before a moss-covered stone, he tells her that this is the place. She asks if this is his wife's grave, but he simply replies that it is not. With a serious expression, he clarifies that this particular grave is not for him. He delivers the stunning revelation that this is the final resting place of her parents. She processes his words, her expressions shifting from shock to quiet, detached contemplation. The boss watches her reaction, his own face a mask of somber understanding. Looking at the simple stone, she remarks that it seems rather tame, and he agrees. She explains she never met them, so the experience just feels hollow and strange. Memento acknowledges that she knows this is a moment where she should feel sad. He places a hand on her head, telling her it's important to cherish her roots. Looking at her with a knowing gaze, he reveals that he knows many things about her. He continues stating he knows about her parents and even her true given name. She tells him he doesn't need to say it, and he asks why not. A radiant smile spreads across her face as she declares her true identity as Memento Mori. Her boss looks at her, a profound understanding in his eyes as he acknowledges her choice. He offers her an out if she changes her mind, but she vows she never will. He announces it's time to go home, and she playfully calls him a gluttonous princess. Later that night, the moon hangs ominously over the dark silhouette of the city. In her bed, Memento groans in pain, clutching her blankets in a state of distress. The nightmare intensifies as she struggles, her thoughts filled with how much it hurts. Unseen hands choke her. She can't breathe and desperately claws at her throat in panic. Tears stream from her eyes as her mind goes blank from the lack of air. With a sudden sharp gasp, her eyes fly open as she is violently thrust from sleep. She sits up in her quiet room, breathing heavily, realizing the horror was just a dream. Still shaken with tears on her cheeks, she confirms to herself it was a dream. Her hand trembles uncontrollably as her mind immediately fixates on her need for medicine. She lets out a choked sound, the lingering terror of the nightmare still very real. Sitting up in bed, she calmly takes her pills with a glass of water. After drinking, she lowers the glass, a heavy sigh escaping her lips. Touching her cheek, she feels the wetness there and realizes she is crying. She looks at the large, nearly full bottle of pills, a sense of dread weighing on her. The memory of her parents' grave flashes through her mind, a somber reminder. A vision of her boss's warm, smiling face appears, a stark contrast to her fear. The kind memory does little to comfort her, instead seeming to unleash her emotions. She curls into a ball, sobbing that she doesn't want to die yet. The next morning, her guardian carefully adjusts her school tie, telling her it's crooked. He fusses over her, asking if she has her handkerchief and tissues before she leaves. Having had enough of his nagging, she finally snaps and tells him to stop. Undeterred by her outburst, he simply smiles warmly and wishes her a good day. Dressed in her uniform, Memento announces she's off and heads out the door for school. The chapter title identifies her as a problem child as she arrives at school. In the hallway, a shadowy figure with a hooded sweatshirt approaches her locker. The figure is revealed to be Memento as she opens her locker to get her books. A cheerful voice suddenly calls out her name, startling her as she turns around. A girl with pigtails, Rhoda, rushes up, waving enthusiastically and wishing her good morning. Rhoda explains she came running as soon as she saw her, happy to see her friend. She reassures Memento their secret is safe, affectionately calling her a hero. Rhoda notices their lockers are conveniently located right next to each other. Peeking inside, Rhoda declares Memento's locker is boring, but Memento thinks it's normal. Rhoda insists it's totally uncute and turns to leave with a dismissive huff. Turning back, Rhoda suddenly asked Memento to tell her about the things that she likes. She presses for details, asking about anime, books, or even her favorite snacks. Memento is confused by the sudden interrogation and asks why Rhoda wants to know. Rhoda explains with earnest sincerity that she wants to become better friends with her. Memento is visibly surprised by the simple, kind gesture, repeating, "Really?" in a quiet voice. Their conversation is cut short by the teacher announcing the start of class. Suddenly, the classroom door is kicked open with a tremendous explosive crash. The loud bang startles the other students who look towards the door in shock. A boy with spiky, two-toned hair makes a dramatic, rebellious entrance. Rhoda exclaims that he's here, but Memento has no idea who this boy is. The boy, Valo, stumbles from his own momentum, landing sprawled on the floor. A teacher with glasses begins to scold Valo for his destructive entrance in improper uniform. Valo pushes himself up, his expression of mask of irritation, telling the teacher to stop nagging. The flustered teacher is taken aback by the boy's blatant defiance and disrespect. Giving up, the teacher announces he's starting class while Valo takes his seat. Rhoda leans over to Memento and whispers a warning about the famous school delinquent. A young girl in a school uniform utters a quiet sound of confusion. She identifies a boy lounging nearby in her thoughts as a delinquent. The school hallway stretches out before them, long and empty. Her cheerful friend asked what she's having for lunch today. Memento simply replies that she is having pasta, which she confirms tastes good. Nearby, the boy watches their simple exchange with a sudden intense focus. He lunges forward without warning, grabbing Memento's wrist to stop her. Her friend is startled while Memento calmly asks what is so urgent. He confidently states that he knows her identity. Memento's eyes widen in absolute shock at being recognized as part of the Amaretto family. Her friend immediately leaps to her defense, demanding the boy get away. He scoffs at her, telling her not to butt in and calling her an aggressive puppy. Flustered but defiant, she proudly announces she is the heir to the Farnetto family. He smirks, introducing himself as Valo Farnetto and boasting his family as far superior. Fallo then adds a pointed insult, calling Memento's boss dumb. He continues his critique, claiming the boss's optimism makes him inefficient. This, he concludes, is the reason her family is so small and idiotic. A small, almost disbelieving laugh escapes Memento as she processes his words. Her expression darkens as she grips his arm, muttering that it hurts. Valo is taken aback by her sudden and menacing change in demeanor. Memento furiously shouts that he couldn't possibly know anything about her family. He retorts that she is the ignorant one and tells her to shut her trap. The two students face off, radiating an intense and hostile energy. With cold determination, Memento issues him a direct challenge. Valo grins, setting. The high stakes. The loser becomes the winner's henchman. Memento is utterly shocked by the severity of his proposed terms. He taunts her, asking if she's scared, but she defiantly accepts the challenge. Their friend suggests a money-making contest, which Memento immediately agrees to. Memento then overrides the dangerous suggestion, proposing a quiz or sports match instead. The first challenge, basketball, ends in a decisive and lopsided victory for Memento. Lying on the court, Valo admits her moves were completely inhuman. A confident smile spreads across her face as she muses. This won't take long. The second challenge is announced, an entertaining common knowledge quiz. Valo wins the quiz handily, leaving Memento slumped over her desk in defeat. She mutters that she has absolutely no knowledge of any of those topics. He leans in, condescendingly asking how she can be so ignorant of the world. With the score tied, the school bell signaled the end of the day. They agree to settle their intense rivalry with the test the following day. Valo tells her to make sure she studies with all her might. Memento retorts that the same advice applies directly back at him. Night falls over the grand castle-like estate where Memento lives. Her guardian, the boss, comes looking for her, carrying a tray of food. He knocks gently on her bedroom door, calling out her name. Leaning into the room, he notes she missed dinner and asks why she's holed up. Memento is completely absorbed in her studies, only mumbling in response. She sits at her desk next to a teddy bear, concentrating intently on her work. The boss asks if she's studying for a test, but she corrects his assumption. With fierce resolve, she declares it a war she absolutely cannot afford to lose. Understanding her intensity, he decides to offer his assistance. He points to a section in her book, suggesting a method that will make it easier. Sometime later, she triumphantly holds up a completed worksheet, her eyes sparkling. The boss remarks on her studying, which she misinterprets as him looking down on her. He places a plate of freshly made pancakes on her desk as a study snack. She looks up from her book, her cheeks puffed out in a silent protest. Memento remains quiet, still pouting as she looks at her textbook. A hand reaches out towards her as she begins to eat her snack. She takes a large bite of the pancake, stuffing her cheeks with food. Her guardian watches her with a patient and paternal expression. He suddenly wipes her mouth with a napkin, startling her mid-chew. She protests that she can do it herself, but he offers to help with her book. With a slight blush, she asks for her book back, but he continues to guide her. He patiently tutors her, pointing out which formulas and methods to use. The fateful test day finally arrives with a sense of anticipation. The two rivals face each other in the hall, the tension palpable between them. Valo warns her not to make any excuses about not sleeping well. Inside the classroom, the teacher instructs them to begin the test. The next day arrives, the school bells ringing to start the day. The teacher enters the classroom with a stack of papers and a cheerful greeting. She announces that she will be revealing the results of yesterday's test. The students listen with bated breath as she builds a suspense. Valo's face is a mask of pure shock as the incredible news is delivered. Memento is equally stunned, her mouth agape in utter disbelief. Their classmates erupt in amazement, calling them the 100-point couple. The scoreboard flashes, confirming that their competition has ended in a draw. Later, the two rivals sit dejectedly on a bench outside with their friend. They both wonder aloud how this could have possibly happened. Their friends cheerfully suggest that they can just say they both won. In perfect sync, they furiously reject this suggestion with a loud no. They immediately begin bickering again, vowing to continue their rivalry indefinitely. Elsewhere, a phone beeps, signaling an incoming call for the boss. He answers, apologizing to the caller for his son's recent behavior. On the other end, Valos's father reassures him, admitting his own kid was fired up. They compliment each other's children as the kids walk home, still arguing. The scene shifts dramatically to a fiery, violent explosion inside a room. A title card reveals the theme of the story: killer and immortal target. A man regenerates amidst the flames, complaining that it still friggin' hurts. He expresses his profound frustration that he didn't die this time either. A young woman furiously demands to know why he won't die, even when blown up. She declares her intention to perform another dissection on his immortal body. He groans that the pain is so bad he genuinely hopes it kills him. Two maids watched the chaotic and violent confrontation with silent concern. An empty, debris-strewn room hints at the preceding battle's ferocity. The maids stand by a doorway, looking worried and resigned to the chaos. The man casually announces his intention to take a bath, despite the situation. He adds that she must have taken a jolt from the explosion as well. He storms off into another room, shouting for her to get back there. The two maids exchange a look of weary and knowing exasperation. They prepare to clean up the considerable mess left by the fight. The man instructs them to find Memento for him after they finish cleaning. He laughs boisterously, asking one of the maids to find Memento for him. A man points at a young maid, thanking her by name, Mona. Mona reacts with complete shock, pointing at herself in disbelief. Her boss explains he needs her because the young lady ignored his earlier attempt to talk. A dark-haired maid, Eride, offers Mona a cool word of encouragement. The boss then chides Erdo for her casual tone, reminding her of his seniority. Filled with terror, Mona expresses her fear that the young lady might kill her. The boss dismisses her worries, insisting it won't happen. Left with no choice, he leaves her to the task, ignoring her desperate pleas. Mona reluctantly walks down a tile path, her footsteps heavy with dread. Wandering through a garden, she complains about her mission while searching for the young lady. She cups her hand to her mouth, calling out again and finally spotting her target. With a gasp of relief, she announces that she has found the young lady. As she moves through the foliage, her hand slips on the uneven ground. Mono falls face first into the dirt and leaves, groaning from the impact. Crawling forward, she cheerfully tells the young lady that she's found her. The young lady's face twitches slightly upon hearing Mona's voice. Her expression is dazed as she absently crumbles a leaf in her hand. She looks up, her eyes wide with confusion, seemingly unaware of her surroundings. Mona tries to get her attention as the young lady stands up to leave. As she begins to walk away, Mona pleads for her to wait. Later, inside a pristine hallway, the dark-haired maid, Elda, waits with stern annoyance. Mona is dragging the mud-caped young lady, Memento, who looks flustered. Elda demands to know why Memento is so dirty, receiving a quiet apology. Memento protests being forced into the bath, but Mona insists it will be over quickly. The scene shifts to a formally set dining table, ready for a meal. An older man in a wheelchair, the boss, observes Memento's arrival with the two maids. Now, clean but sullen, Memento stands between the maids as the boss thanks them. He then chides Memento for running away and questions her aversion to bathing. Memento tells him to shut up, and he angrily demands she not ignore him. As the maids leave, one sighs in exasperation while Elda lectures Memento on gratitude. Memento retorts that he is the one who needs to listen to her. A fork flies past the boss's head and he yells about the immediate danger. She smirks, claiming his loud voice caused her hand to slip while brandishing more forks. Two maids observe their boss fuming over a weak excuse while Memento taunts him. The blonde maid, Mona, watches this volatile exchange with a gentle, knowing smile. Later, the two maids walk together down a long, elegant corridor. Mona remarks on the strange relationship between their boss and the young lady. The dark-haired maid, Elda, suggests it is a typical father-daughter relationship. Her colleague disagrees, believing their bond is closer, though they seem unaware of it. Mona recalls an instance of their unique dynamic on the living room couch. The boss, Leonard, complains that his killer is interrupting his television time. Memento cheekily tells him to shove it, asking him not to interrupt asterisk or asterisk. Leonard sighs in resignation, while Memento lounges, showing their constant comfortable proximity. Mona concludes it's hard to tell if they are friends or enemies. In the kitchen, Mona is shocked to see Elda preparing to smoke a cigarette. She vehemently objects to her colleague taking a break while on duty. Their boss enters this kitchen, commending their work for the day. He tells Mona that all that's left is to prepare for tomorrow. Leonard then asks where Elda has gone, but Mona doesn't know. With a strange smile, Mona guesses her colleague is just in the bathroom. The boss gives Mona one last task, putting away towels and turning off lights. She walks down a long, empty corridor carrying the stack of clean towels. Annoyed, Mona mutters that Elda always does whatever she wants. Entering a utility room, she suddenly stops, having noticed something unusual. She finds Memento hunched over a sink, who is startled by her appearance. Memento is frantically scrubbing a small piece of cloth under running water. Mona realizes with a shock that the cloth is completely soaked in blood. Memento quickly hides the cloth, asking what of it when questioned. Panicked, Mona stammers that it's nothing, just came to put away towels. She awkwardly places the clean towels into a nearby cabinet. Mona sneaks glances at Memento, who has returned to her scrubbing. Memento continues to wash the cloth with renewed but futile vigor. Finally, she gives up, sighing that it seems to be a lost cause. She turns to leave with a damn-stained cloth still in her hand. A look of sudden, intense realization dawns on Mona's face. She realizes with fierce determination that she cannot let this opportunity pass. A young maid resolves that she must break through the wall between them now. She lets out a small shout to get the other girl's attention. With a desperate plea, she begs the girl to wait before leaving. The girl, Memento, is startled by the maid's sudden intense outburst. The maid asks to see the stained cloth, and Memento reluctantly agrees. She demonstrates the proper cleaning technique with vigorous splashing motions. Holding up the pristine cloth, she proudly shows that it is good as new. She then informs Memento where to find the cleaning supplies for future use. The maid addresses her formally as young lady, causing a shift in the mood. Memento's expression instantly darkens into an annoyed, dangerous glare. The maid worries that she has once again done something uncalled for. Memento grabs her, tearfully insisting she be called by her name, not a title. She calms down, stating it's fine as long as the maid understands. The maid is confused when Memento asks for her name in return. Memento explains it would be unfair if she didn't know the maid's name. The maid shyly introduces herself as Mona, which Memento repeats thoughtfully. Memento speculates if Mona is a mafumane, but Mona insists she is weak. As Memento leaves, she mutters that she managed to escape with her life. She pauses in the doorway, case in hand, a moment of silence passing. Mona watches her go, still processing their strange and intense interaction. Without turning, Memento offers a quiet, sincere thank you for the help. She then briskly walks away as Mona watches from the doorway. Mona's face breaks into a radiant, genuinely happy smile. She suggests a calm bath next time, but Memento flatly refuses. The boss gives his subordinate instructions on where to conduct surveillance. He warns his men to be thorough but to avoid shooting without reason. His men acknowledged their orders and depart as Memento continues to read. The boss leans back in his chair and lets out a massive yawn. Memento looks up from her book, her expression calm and attentive. Her boss gets her attention and she responds with a questioning look. He asks if she wants to get ice cream after finishing her business. He mentions hearing about a new flavor they could try together. He remarks that it is unusual for him to extend such an invitation. Across a desk, a girl dismisses an issue, but the man says it was just a whim. A man with a prominent scar across his face looks away thoughtfully. He explains that he has some business to take care of today. A young girl, Memento, acknowledges the annoying but important family matter. With a soft rustle of her clothes, she gets up from the couch. The man kneels before her, apologizing that he cannot go out with her. Patting her head, he promises to get her the biggest size next time. Memento dismisses his concern, stating that his invitation was just a whim. He laments that she won't get to try the treat he'll eat himself. Before she leaves, she peeks back and playfully sticks her tongue out. The heavy door slams shut with a loud final thud. Memento stands alone for a moment, holding her white case. Her feet are shown walking purposefully down a paved path. Left behind, the man expresses his guilt to a maid. The maid formally informs him that it is time for his departure. She then asks where his destination will be for the day. He replies that it is the same routine briefing as always. The scene shifts to the quiet city street with simple, blocky buildings. A vintage car speeds down the road, its form blurred by motion. The boss instructs his driver to pull over and drop him off. He then tells the driver not to stick around waiting for him. The driver understands and wishes his boss well on his way. The boss watches the car as it drives away down the street. Adjusting his fedora, his expression becomes serious and determined. He turns and walks towards the entrance of a dark, narrow alleyway. His polished shoe steps onto the shadowed pavement of the alley. He proceeds deeper into the passage between the looming buildings. A hand holding a classic wristwatch is shown in close-up. Two young men are waiting. One notes his punctual arrival. With a stern look, the boss instructs them to lead the way. The two youths nod their heads in silent, knowing agreement. One of them quickly places a black blindfold over the boss's eyes. They begin to guide the now blindfolded man through the corridor. His guide informs him that he has a ways to go straight ahead. He is then warned of upcoming steps in a change in direction. With a soft sound, they announce that they have finally arrived. The blindfold is carefully untied and removed from his face. He rubs his neck, commenting on their elaborate security methods. A smiling blonde woman at a bar welcomes Don Amaretto. Elsewhere, Memento is seen walking past a gelato shop. She moves with a pensive and slightly uncertain expression. She muses to herself that she isn't really hungry despite being there. Her expression is one of quiet, solitary contemplation. Deciding against going home, she chooses an alternate destination. A bus stop sign stands alone against the cloudy sky. She arrives at the stop just as a bus is pulling away. Undeterred by the missed bus, she continues walking down the sidewalk. Her path leads her to a classic red telephone booth under a tree. The telephone booth stands imposingly, a relic of another time. She steps inside and picks up the heavy receiver with a clack. She operates the old payphone with a series of mechanical clicks. The phone begins to ring with a loud, insistent electronic sound. She dryly tells the caller that she has never been happier. A heavy mechanical sound begins to fill the small space. The entire phone booth descends into the ground like an elevator. She hangs up the receiver with a decisive and final clunk. Stepping out, she follows a simple stone path into the facility. She announces her arrival as she enters through a dark doorway. A young man cheerfully greets Defiler inside a messy workshop. Another man, the professor, asks what brings her to his shop today. She requests some maintenance, and he readily agrees with a thumbs up. He invites her to check out his new toy while she waits for him. He rummages through his cluttered workbench, searching for a part. The professor thinks he may have left the necessary item downstairs. To pass the time, he offers her tea or something similar. Memento accepts his kind offer with a small, appreciative smile. She waits patiently on the stairs as he continues his search. In another room, Don Amaretto enjoys a hot drink with a woman. Memento peeks through a curtain, her eyes wide with shock at the sight. Amaretto's eyes widen in recognition as he spots her. He does a violent spit take, spraying his drink everywhere. The woman asks if he is all right as he coughs and sputters. The professor, having found the part, also turns in concern. Memento points accusingly, demanding to know what he is doing there. Amaretto points back, shouting the very same question at her. The woman asks San Moreto if Memento is an acquaintance of his. She then charmingly asks if he could introduce them to each other. Memento is internally shocked that her boss was with a woman. The professor swoops in from behind, calling the woman darling. He gives her a kiss, shocking both Memento and Amaretto. The woman looks momentarily flustered by the sudden display of affection. The couple then proudly announces what they have done together. They hold up their hands, showing off matching wedding rings. Memento and Amaretto are left utterly speechless by the revelation. Memento then breaks the stunned silence with an impressed wow. The professor explains that Amaretto is acting as the Defiler's father. He clarifies that Defiler is Memento's well-known underworld nickname. This name was earned because her kill methods leave a dismembered mess. Memento takes a sharp sip from her drink, clearly annoyed by the description. The professor stands ready to give Amaretto a tour of his workshop. He asked San Moreto if he would like to come along with them. He reasons that it's perfectly fine since Amaretto is her father. The professor promises to show him some of his neat creations. He asks his wife to find them something to drink while they are gone. Memento watches them go, a pensive look on her face. The informant smiles warmly at Memento as she waves them off. The two men disappear from view behind a simple white curtain. Memento begins to prepare drinks, pausing to listen to their conversation. The informant calls Memento a cutie while sipping from her mug. Inside the back room, Amaretto praises the amazingly messy workshop. The professor instructs Memento where to leave her gear for repairs. Don Amaretto, with a serious expression, asks how long Memento has been visiting this place. The professor, focused on his work, reveals she has been coming from the very beginning. A flashback shows a younger man bringing a small, disheveled Memento to the workshop. From inside his workshop, the professor peeks out, surprised by the unexpected visitors. A hand rests gently on the young Memento's shoulder as her situation is explained. He recalls his surprise at how very tiny she was during that first meeting. Her worn-out boots stand amidst a floor littered with her broken and dirty equipment. Sitting on the floor, the professor admits that performing all the maintenance was a pain. His expression then shifts to one of surprise as she presents him with a notebook. He realizes she knew exactly what she wanted, pointing to detailed drawings inside the book. He reflects that while he makes tools, the people who use them are something else. A younger Amaretto watches as the professor confirms the completion of her new equipment. The three of them stand together in the cluttered workshop, her new gear ready. Amaretto reflects on the harsh reality of her young life in the underworld. He thinks about how she had to focus solely on survival to make it. The professor, interrupting his thoughts, asks the boss to come over for a second. Amaretto turns, wondering what the professor wants from him now. Announcing his intent to make a mess, he vows to ensure Memento can always smile. Suddenly, a boy swings a large serrated blade, slicing the professor across the chest. Memento lets out a sharp gasp, her eye wide with shock at the sudden violence. Looking at the bloodied blade, she coolly observes that it slices quite well. The boy who swung this blade is stunned into panic confusion by his own action. He frantically asked what she has done, but she simply calls it a test cut. As dark energy erupts from the wound, she calmly tells him that it's fine. The boy, however, insists with certainty that the professor is most certainly dead. His terror grows as he points to the professor's twitching hand on the floor. His eyes widened in utter disbelief at her impossible calm in the situation. The professor rises completely unharmed and asks Memento if she sees now. He then swiftly punches the boy in the face, who grunts in pain. The boy complains that the professor stole his line, questioning his actions. In all, the boy is amazed that a few test cuts are considered fine. The professor extends a surprising job offer to the young man. He cheerfully explains it's an easy job, just being his personal blade tester. A stylish woman arrives, remarking on how much fun they all seem to be having. She announces that she has a drink ready for Donna Moreto, thanking the professor. The professor, nursing a bruised cheek, says he will get out of their way. Memento apologizes for interrupting as the woman approaches. With a knowing smile, the woman declares it is time for the grown-ups to talk. Memento puffs out her chest, insisting that she is a grown-up too. Her earnest defiance charms the woman, who agrees with a gentle smile. The woman concedes the point and invites the now validated grown-up to join them. Amaretto quietly asked her not to tease Memento, admitting her reaction was very cute. The three of them relocate to a well-stocked bar for their meeting. Amaretto announces he will begin with the usual status report. Memento sits alone at the counter, watching the two adults move away to talk privately. She wonders about the woman's identity, concluding she has more than a simple underling. Her suspicion grows as she realizes they are using code phrases she cannot understand. The woman claps her hands, signaling the end of their clandestine business meeting. She cheerfully announces that now it is time for a celebratory drink. Pouring a glass for Amaretto, she asked for his opinion on the exquisite beverage. She then slides a second glass in front of Memento, offering her some as well. The woman notes with concern that Memento is still just a child. She dismisses the concern, reminding Amaretto that Memento declared herself a grown-up. Amaretto furiously tells both of them that they have gone far enough with this joke. Ignoring him, Memento grabs the glass and chugs the entire contents in one gulp. Amaretto shouts her name in alarm as she finishes the drink. He wordly asks if she is okay after her impulsive action. In the next instant, she collapses onto the bar, completely passed out. He panics, shouting her name again as she lies motionless on the counter. Cradling her, he furiously accuses the woman of actually giving alcohol to a child. The woman observes Memento's flushed face, noting she seems to be feeling the effects. As he tries to wake her, Memento murmurs that she is fine. The woman reveals the drink was non-alcoholic grape juice, a simple placebo effect. In her stupor, Memento confesses that she is actually quite happy with her life now. Her eyes snap open with a look of sudden fear as she begins to speak again. With a tear on her cheek, she whispers a desperate plea not to take this away. Amaretto and the woman are stunned into silence, moved by her raw vulnerability. The woman gently strokes Memento's hair, calling her her pride and joy. Her expression turns serious as she says she just remembered something important. She reveals that the notorious organization Murder, Inc. has its eyes on Memento. Amaretto is unfamiliar with the name, his expression turning grim and thoughtful. He asked what he owes the informant, but she says seeing that moment was payment enough. She playfully asks if she can have Memento, but he flatly refuses. He declines her offer of another drink, stating he has had enough for today. The woman smiles, saying it's fine and not to worry about it. She then teases him by calling him a responsible papa, which he tells her to stop. Later they arrive at a large, opulent estate under a starry sky. A maid hears a call from outside and rushes to answer the door. She is shocked to see the boss returning, carrying the unconscious Memento in his arms. He instructs the flustered maid to open the doors leading to Memento's room. His polished shoes and her small ones step across the threshold together. The heavy, ornate door to her room stands closed and silent. Tucked safely into bed, Memento sleeps peacefully, a slight smile on her face. The maid notes the boss's exhaustion and offers to prepare some tea for him. She then offers to empty the trash from the room for him. As she goes to lift the bin, she notices something unusual inside. A white, unlabeled bottle sits amidst the crumpled papers in the trash. The maid pulls the mysterious bottle from the bin, wondering what it could be. A violent memory begins with a voice announcing an incoming object. A man in a fedora throws a heavy cylindrical object, telling his target to catch it. The target dodges and the object smashes into a wall with explosive force. The man in the fedora complains that his target was supposed to catch it, not dodge. The target, Ryuji, lies on the ground, looking up at his assailants Rollo and the man. A different scene shows a man mourning his fallen comrades, Abel, Bruno, and Camillo. Consumed by rage, he screams that he will kill his enemies. His opponents, a woman with a katana and a man, state they stole his client. He vows to make them regret crossing him, not caring if they are Murder, Inc. The woman finds his threats hilarious, bursting into unrestrained laughter. The man in the fedora calmly informs the vengeful survivor that he is already dead. He looks down to see a gaping, perfectly circular hole where his torso used to be. A close-up shows an eye wide with shock and utter disbelief at what has transpired. The fur-collared assassin curses. Furious, she couldn't perceive her opponent drawing their blade. Her partner declares the fight is over, his foot resting on their defeated enemy's head. Walking away, he compliments her for mentally breaking their foe and suggests a new plan. The scene shifts to the grand, imposing exterior of the Amaretto family mansion. Inside, Leonard Amaretto looks at his ward with paternal concern, asking if something is wrong. Memento, her mouth full, looks up from her plate with an innocent, questioning expression. She wonders about his sudden worry, while he attempts to brush it off as nothing. Insisting she is acting normally, she is told by the boss that she has food on her face. Later, his concern persists as he peeks in on her, asking if she has a headache. He continues to fret, wondering aloud if she might be feeling feverish or sore. Finally, his anxiety peaks, and he offers to take her temperature to be sure. Memento retaliates, knocking him down as she angrily questions his strange behavior. A vertical panel emphasizes the speed and intensity of her sudden violent reaction. From the floor, the boss chides her for throwing things, complaining that it hurt. As he pushes himself up, she stands over him, her frustration clear on her face. She expresses her worry, explaining he's like a child who doesn't realize something is wrong. He shouts for her to mind her own business and is immediately struck by a chair. Holding the chair, Memento offers a furious and deeply sarcastic apology for her actions. She yells that she is sorry for not being normal as he knows she hit him with the corner. Stomping away, she warns him not to follow as he tries to explain what he meant. The scene transitions under a cloudy sky, signaling a change in location and time. In a bar, Leonard Amaretti informs an unseen guest that they are not yet open. He then directs a question to the person at his counter, asking why they are there. Memento is revealed, sulking at the bar as Amaretti tries to get her attention. A blonde woman doubts his business will succeed, but Amaretti insists it would be packed. The woman's attitude flips as she excitedly praises Memento's famous pasta, wanting some immediately. Amaretti correctly deduces that she wouldn't be sulking if she were only there for a job. Voicing her frustration, Memento questions the very definition of what it means to be normal. She complains that the boss was nagging her and following her around like a lost chick. Amaretti listens to her rant with a knowing and slightly amused look on his face. He catches her off guard by asking why, despite her anger, she seems a little happy. With a gentle smile, he explains it's because she finally has someone to complain about. At the bar, Memento suspiciously questions if the bartender is making fun of her. He sincerely states he is happy for her, leaving her to wonder what he's on about. She impatiently demands a job, prompting his theatrical agreement and her subsequent threat. His mind flashes back to a grim event from that morning as he reaches for a bottle. He begins to explain how a group of assassins was used as a warning. The story is told of 3 severed heads being lined up in a back alley. A gruesome detail reveals the initials M and I were carved into their cheeks. She comments on their messed up minds, a statement the bartender finds ironic coming from her. He cautions her not to make the same mistake, and she dismissively acknowledges his warning. With a pout, she adds that she's lacking in charm anyway. Looking over a job posting, she confidently states it will be done in a flash. Her unimpressed expression reveals her thought that he is more meddlesome than she guessed. He puffs out his chest, grandly proclaiming that he has always been a kind gentleman. She ignores his posturing, much to his annoyance, and says she'll contact him later. The scene transitions to the imposing exterior of a grand mansion. Inside, a man spits his drink out in a spray of shock. His friend Lassie exclaims in disbelief that he had a fight. The man, Leo, wearily asks to be left alone as Lassie muses on his fatherhood. Lassie confidently asserts that the fight was surely Leo's fault somehow. Leo explains they found a medicine bottle in her room, which raised many concerns. Lassie chides him for rummaging through her trash, but Leo defensively denies it. Gazing into the distance, Leo quietly admits that he is just worried about her. His friend sits in contemplative silence, understanding the gravity of the situation. Lassie somberly reflects that she is still working and might not come home one day. His mood shifts as he teases Leo, observing that he really does love her. He laughs, mocking Leo for having a fight and losing it all. Last, he theorizes, the medicine was most likely a collar, a term Leo questions. He explains it's an invisible collar designed to prevent disobedience or escape. The medicine is a placebo, training subjects to believe they will die without it. He adds a horrifying theory about a cannibalistic upbringing to explain her strength. Leo asks why he trailed off, but last he remarks on the surprises of the human body. Lassie sternly warns him not to mess around haphazardly as it could break something. He advises Leo not to do anything drastic while he continues his investigation. A weathered man offers his thanks and encourages the unseen person to continue. He then remembers there was one last thing he wanted to ask them. The setting shifts to a long, dilapidated warehouse under an overcast sky. A young girl, Memento, stands outside confirming this is the correct location. Approaching the entrance, she notes the complete lack of security and suspects a trap. Her hand tightens on the door handle as she prepares for a potential fight. With a powerful kick, she bursts through the doors, ready for anything inside. Her confident expression immediately dissolves into one of wide-eyed shock and confusion. Stepping into the ruins, she wonders what could have possibly happened here. Amidst the wreckage, she laments that her long journey was for nothing. A casual greeting suddenly echoes from the shadows, stopping her in her tracks. A man in a stylish fedora emerges, welcoming Memento by name with open arms. She is completely stunned, questioning how she failed to sense his presence. Her gaze hardens into a glare as she demands to know who he is. The man remains silent for a moment, prompting her to press him for an answer. Her shock is palpable as she waits for the mysterious man to speak. He then apologizes with a laugh, admitting her voice made him zone out. He theatrically introduces himself as a representative from the organization Murder, Inc. He offers a non-stop party of killing, promising her desired medicine and targets. With a look of utter disdain, she gives him a firm, one-word refusal. She explains she has a home now and turns away, pitting his failure. The man's face darkens as he questions her declaration with quiet menace. He then vows to destroy her home, leaving her with nowhere else to go. A sudden sound startles her, and she whirls around demanding to know its source. A sharp sound effect indicates a sudden swift movement from the shadows. The katana-wielding figure clashes with Memento in a blur of violent motion. Annoyed by the indirect attack, Memento tells them to face her directly. The man blocks her attack, clarifying that he doesn't want a begrudging pawn. Memento reacts with revulsion, calling his methods and intentions disgusting. Realizing he plans to take away her home, she lunges at him in a rage. He coolly welcomes her attempt to stop him, his confidence unshaken. Her eyes blaze with fury as she vows to completely annihilate him. He taunts her, suggesting she'd call if she changes her mind. With a look of defiance, Memento crushes the card, stating she won't need it. A young woman's eyes narrow with cold, simmering fury. She stands alone in the vast, empty space of a desolate warehouse. Clicking her tongue, she turns away from the memory of a recent confrontation. Looking down at a fallen enemy's shadow, she finds the man's actions disgusting. She recalls the man from Murder Incorporated, making a grand offer to scout her. The image of a past, violent struggle flashes through her mind. Now outside, she stands silently before a movie rental Dropbox. With a soft clatter, she inserts a case, her thoughts on the terrible day. Clutching the case, she laments the unending series of recent disasters. She recounts the morning's fight, her stolen job, and the bizarre scouting offer. A sharp glance reveals her unsettling feeling of being watched by someone annoying. Overwhelmed, she lets out a long, weary sigh, slumping against the wall. Her expression hardens as she contemplates how to deal with her stalkers. She decides she cannot simply let her associate kill everyone who bothers her. A figure appears as she considers asking the professor to make a new weapon. Lost in thought, she holds her movie case, weighing her limited options. Musing on her reasons, a voice suddenly shouts out her name, Memento. Her eyes fly open in shock, completely startled by the unexpected sound. A large, scarred man appears, greeting her and calling their meeting a coincidence. Memento's mouth hangs open, utterly stunned by his sudden appearance. He stands there, comically balancing gifts, and chides her for being late for dinner. She can only stammer, demanding to know why he is there. He defensively explains he went for a stroll because she was taking too long. Still processing, she repeats his flimsy excuse back to him. He asked if she was working, and she confirms that she was. With a dismissive gesture, she explains that the work was a complete waste of time. He then suddenly tosses the entire stack of presents toward her. His face is unreadable as the boxes tumble through the air. She looks on, completely bewildered by his strange and abrupt action. He dismisses her confusion, simply saying that it was nothing. He then tosses a stuffed cat at her, announcing it's time to go home. As he walks away, Memento calls out for him to wait up. She silently looks down at the strange, stitched plushie in her hands. A faint blush appears on her cheeks as she buries her face in the soft toy. She hurries after him, telling him to wait for her. She questions the gifts, sarcastically asking if he thinks he's Santa Claus. Her face registers pure shock at the unbelievable sight that greets them. A room is completely filled with gifts, cakes, and festive decorations. Elaborate cakes and colorful macarons are piled high on a tiered stand. A small teddy bear wearing a tie sits primly amidst the piles of presents. An open box reveals an assortment of fancy decadent chocolates. A flashback shows the boss with a maid, wondering if he has gone too far. He recalls how much fun his associate Lassie seemed to have during the planning. Memento lets out a small, suppressed laugh, unable to contain her amusement. Her composure finally breaks into a full, hearty laugh at the sheer absurdity. The boss looks away, scratching his cheek in sheepish embarrassment. His eyes reveal a mixture of fondness and awkwardness at her reaction. The scene shifts to them sitting on a couch amidst the clutter. He offers a quiet, sincere apology for his earlier behavior. He specifies he is sorry for pestering her and calling her abnormal. Looking down, he admits that his actions were wrong. Memento chides him, stating that no one likes a stubborn man. He insists he is being serious, but she remains unconvinced and dismissive. His hand reaches out towards her in a slow, gentle motion. He softly pats her on the head, the simple gesture changing the mood. A gentle, knowing smile appears on his face as he looks at her. He murmurs that this quiet moment isn't so bad, telling her it's all right. Her eyes drift towards the television screen as he continues to pat her head. The atmosphere darkens as they both realize something suspicious is happening. Memento's panic grows as she sees a menacing figure on the screen. She clings to him, screaming about the scene turning into a horror movie. Her terror intensifies as she pleads desperately for it to stop. Her eyes are wide with fear, not understanding what is happening. An intruder in black tactical gear crashes violently through the window. The boss immediately shields her with his own body from the explosive entry. The intruder lands with a crunch amidst the shards of shattered glass. Memento grabs a nearby lamp, her instincts taking over as she prepares to fight. She leaps into the air, bringing the lamp down on the intruder's head. A second intruder mockingly asks if they have interrupted their leisure time. Memento's eyes are filled with a potent mixture of rage and adrenaline. The first intruder is stunned by the unexpected ferocity of her blow. Memento, looking like a maid, screams that he is a useless bastard. A nearby maid's face shows utter shock at the sudden brutal violence. The second intruder fires his pistol 3 times in rapid succession. Memento winces, shutting her eyes as the loud shots ring out. The boss shields her again, remarking on their very rough greeting. Her eyes are wide with shock and concern as he takes the bullets for her. Holding a bloody blade, she whispers his title, her voice filled with worry. The shooter angrily questions why he is covering for his underling. The first intruder suddenly grabs his partner's arm, stopping him from firing. The shooter looks down in confusion at his partner's death grip. He is shocked as his partner slumps over, still holding his arm. The first intruder collapses to the floor, finally defeated. Memento stands ready, her bloody blade held firmly in her hand. The boss bizarrely scolds her for making a mess of the floor. 2 maids rush in, begging to be allowed to treat his wounds. Memento calmly tells him he got himself hurt with his actions. She offers to kill him quickly to end his pain, but he dismisses her. The boss's strength begins to fail him as the wounds take their toll. His face contorts in pain as he starts to collapse from his injuries. He groans and slumps onto the couch, finally losing consciousness. Memento coolly instructs his unconscious body to revive quickly. She reassures the panicking maids, telling them that he will be fine. She looks over the body of the fallen intruder with a curious expression. She finds a strange playing card with a heart emblem on the floor. Picking it up, she thinks to herself how creepy the card is. The scene transitions to a quiet sky, signaling the passage of time. The boss awakens in bed, groggily thinking that he must have fallen asleep. A subordinate bursts into the room to report an attack on the compound. The man reports the assault, and the boss immediately asks for the death toll. Leonard awakens to find Memento sitting across from him, who jumps in surprise. She suggests they discuss matters over food, claiming she entered through the door normally. A nearby table is shown with a teacup as a question hangs in the air. Leonard sits with a drink, asking for a report on whether anyone died. While eating, Memento confirms that while people were wounded, she saved them all. She explains that the situation has become rather annoying, which he acknowledges. Memento reveals a strange man from murdering is trying to destroy her home. He expresses concern for her safety, but she confidently dismisses his worries. Standing with determination, Memento vows that she will not let them do as they please. With a quick thanks for the food, she departs with a purposeful stride. Leonard looks at her empty plate, realizing her main concern was for their home. A phone vibrates on the table, signaling an urgent incoming call. A man in a bow tie answers, surprised to see the caller as Leo A. He complains about the interruption, but Leonard demands information on Murder Inc. The man explains that Murder Incorporated is a tenacious, undefeated executive assassination group. He warns against getting involved, but Leonard states that it is already too late. The bow-tie-wearing man sarcastically asks if Leonard's attempt to make up with her worked. He teases Leonard, asking for a bottle of good wine as a reward. A maid approaches Leonard with a serious message, addressing him as boss. She announces that an extremely eager guest has arrived to meet with him. Leonard's face tightens with a look of deep concern and apprehension. Outside a building, Memento lets out a quiet sigh of relief after a fight. She confirms the situation is handled as her allies lead away captured hostiles. A superior tells her to get her wounds treated, but she is already focused. Using a device, she confirms her next objective on the other side of the compound. Walking away, she wonders with exasperation where the endless attackers are coming from. Her device buzzes with an update that more raiding parties have been spotted. Leonard asks if the alert was from Memento, but his guest denies it. The mysterious visitor compliments the wonderful quality of the tea he has been served. Leonard cuts through the pleasantries, demanding to know why the man is here. The visitor's ominous affiliation with the organization Murder Inc. is revealed. He takes another sip of tea, remarking on how lovely Leonard's house is. The man states he can understand why Memento would want to stay here. An opulent, empty hallway sets a grand yet foreboding tone. Inside, one maid questions another about why she isn't with their boss. Her colleague explains the boss ordered her to hide, signaling imminent danger. Recognizing the threat, they agree they must go and warn the others. Meanwhile, a visitor remarks on the boss's apparent fixation on someone named Memento. Suddenly, the visitor lunges, pinning the boss and confirming his own intense interest. He praises Memento's perfectly honed and brilliantly shining sense for killing. With that established, he formally asked the boss to relinquish her to them. The boss is left utterly stunned and speechless by the audacious request. The visitor suggests that if the boss disowns her, she will come to her senses. In exchange, he promises to compensate the boss and his organization handsomely. The offered payment would be enough for them to live in luxury forever. He describes a future of expanded business and greater influence for the family. The visitor condescendingly suggests this is the simplest and most logical path. He asks if the boss truly believes he'll just let her go with a smile. With absolute confidence, he asserts that he does, assuming Mafia are all about money. Exploding with rage, the boss grabs him, yelling not to be looked down upon. He vows to be by Memento's side, even if she's bound for hell itself. The visitor lets out a weary sigh, completely unmoved by the emotional display. He dismisses the boss's defiance, calling it a fruitless endeavor from the start. He issues a chilling threat, implying others will die for this unreasonableness. The boss glares, challenging the man to make his day. From outside, a voice welcomes Memento as she returns to the mansion. A maid frantically tries to stop Memento from entering the room, warning her away. Memento ignores the plea, announcing she's coming in as she opens the door. Her eyes widen in absolute horror at the shocking scene before her. The visitor stands over the boss's slumped body, offering a mock apology. He explains that the boss angered him, leaving him no choice but to kill him. Memento rushes to his side as the visitor notes the boss's importance to her. She confirms his body is still warm as the visitor plans his next move. Memento's expression shifts from pure shock to a cold, hard resolve. The visitor declares her home is gone and formally invites her to join them. He lets out a questioning sound as if amused by her silent grief. A dark, bloody mess spreads across the floor, hinting at the violent confrontation. Cradling her fallen boss, Memento observes that even her attacker couldn't kill him. As the boss begins to revive, a sound effect emphasizes the unnatural regeneration. He lurches upright, complaining about the pain, while Memento calmly sits beside him. The visitor from Murder Inc. recoils in absolute shock at this impossible sight. Stammering, he demands to know how the boss is alive and what he is. Ignoring the questions, the boss glares, vowing the man will pay for ruining his shirt. A blur of motion signifies a rapid, unseen action taking place. A sharp sound effect cuts through the air, indicating a sudden arrival. The insistent ringing of a phone or device interrupts the tense standoff. The visitor casually stands by the door, preparing for his departure. Glancing at his beeping phone, he offers a quick apology for the interruption. The boss furiously accuses him of running away as the visitor announces his leave. He clarifies he is passing the baton to a squad of masked operatives. As he leaves, the visitor tips his hat in a gesture of farewell. He calls out a casual goodbye to Memento-chan, promising to wait for her. Enraged, the boss shouts for the creep to get lost immediately. He lights a cigarette, the sharp sound echoing his frayed nerves. Facing the new threat, he laments the lack of good people in the world. Taking a drag, he asks Memento if she is ready for the coming fight. Memento, cleaver in hand, confirms with a confident smile that she knows it. The aftermath shows a hallway scene of utter destruction and chaos. Amidst the wreckage, the boss asks Memento if she is hurt, noting the leader escaped. She looks down at her hands, a moment of silent reflection passing between them. The boss gets her attention. Sensing her subdued and troubled mood, she apologizes, blaming herself for him being targeted by these strange people. He gently places a bandage on her cheek, dismissing her apology as just another thing. With a firm gaze, he makes a solemn promise to protect them all. Memento looks up at him, her face reflecting quiet gratitude and relief. He announces his desire for a bath now that the immediate danger is over. Walking away, he cheekily invites her to join, to which she calls him an idiot. At school, a girl with pigtails reacts with wide-eyed shock to some terrible news. She clings to Memento, wailing in protest at the idea of her quitting school. Rhoda desperately clings to Memento, her face contorted as she pleads for her not to go. In a school hallway, a young girl named Memento finds herself in a tearful embrace. A dark-haired boy, Valo, taunts her crying friend Rhoda from behind with an insult. Rhoda playfully pinches Memento's face while Memento announces her intention to go on a trip. She explains to her friends that she'll be spending time with family, keeping the destination a secret. With a gentle smile, Memento thinks to herself that the truth is far more complicated. Walking beside Valo, she internally admits that she could never tell Rhoda the full story. Valo looks at her with a serious expression, warning her not to be running away. He reminds her with intensity that they still have an unresolved bet to settle. With a confident smirk, Memento gives him an affirmative and obvious response to his challenge. From a distance, Rhoda and Valo are seen bickering, exasperated with each other's constant fighting. A quiet shot of a cloudy sky marks a transition to a different time and place. A close-up focuses on Memento's legs as she walks with clear purpose. Carrying her case, her expression is tense as the sound of her phone ringing cuts the silence. In a restaurant, a man named Leonard complains on the phone about receiving heads without warning. The person on the other end, Amaretto, casually sips a drink, noting their safe arrival. Leonard continues his call, describing the chaotic scene of their arrival as quite a spectacle. He laughingly recounts how Memento's legs gave out when she saw all the boxes. In another room, Memento asks Amaretto if she should handle the containers in the usual way. Amaretto on the phone with Leonard states his rare intention to post a job. He declares his wish to put a bounty on someone, his pen poised over a piece of paper. The name of the target is revealed to be the notorious organization Murder Inc. Leonard is stunned by this news, realizing it is an open declaration of war. A close-up reveals Memento's determined face, a slight smile playing on her lips. Over the phone, she confidently states that she has a score to settle with them. Leonard is distressed by her plan, questioning her motives after all she has done for him. Hearing his concern, Memento reluctantly agrees to his terms with an exasperated sigh. She pauses just before hanging up, asking him to hold on for a moment. Leonard issues a friendly challenge, promising her the best pasta she's ever had next time. Walking down an alley, Memento accepts with a laugh, saying she'll be looking forward to it. Another transitional shot of a cloudy sky signals a change of scene. An exterior view shows a simple modern building, her new temporary base of operations. Inside a sparse room, she opens a sleek white case with a soft, decisive click. Memento surveys her new simple surroundings with a non-committal grunt of acknowledgement. She immediately gets to work, tying the ribbon of her blouse with precise movements. Sitting at a desk, she meticulously cleans a piece of her equipment. Her tools for weapon maintenance are laid out neatly on the table before her. Holding up a freshly assembled pistol, she murmurs her satisfaction with the result. A close-up shows her hands expertly handling the pistol's frame and magazine. As she works, she reflects that performing this familiar maintenance brings back old memories. Her hands carefully and skillfully slide the pistol's upper receiver onto the frame. The well-practiced ritual transports her back to a simpler, yet harsher time in her past. A flashback reveals a tense standoff where she believed her life was certainly over. A small, simple panel marks a transition in her memory, hinting at a change of fate. She recalls Amaretto's warm, smiling face as he held her hand in a comforting gesture. With a peaceful smile, she muses that no one could have ever predicted this outcome. Her thoughts turn to the unexpected path her life took, somehow leading her to school. She remembers making a new friend, Rhoda, and a rival, Valo, in this strange life. Her reflection culminates in the profound realization that she now has a father in Amaretto. Her quiet contemplation on her new life concludes with a single thoughtful word. A close-up shows the fur collar of Amaretto's coat signaling his arrival. Memento looks up from her work, her expression focused and ready for the next step. Amaretto knocks on his doorframe, announcing that it is time for them to leave. She confirms her preparations are going great, and he expresses his quiet approval. He slides a small, flat white box across the desk toward her as a gift. Amaretto explains it's from Lassie and tells her to finish up so they can depart. Memento picks up the mysterious box, wondering what its contents could possibly be. As she carefully lifts the lid, her eyes widen in genuine and absolute surprise. Inside, she discovers a small plaque with the elegant words, "Happy Ever," inscribed on it. For a moment, she is utterly speechless, her mouth agape in pure shock. Her shock gives way to unrestrained laughter at the absurdity of the sentimental gift. Sometime later, she firmly closes the door to her now empty room. Amaretto waits for her in the hallway, his arms crossed with an air of patience. As they walk away together, he asks what was in the box, but she calls it a secret. The final view is of the plaque reading "Happy Ever After," left on her desk.